The Waterford Grade School District, and I'd like to call it to order and have us do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public notice has been given of this meeting at our four school buildings, the district website, and newspaper publications. Renee, please note for the record that all board members are here for this meeting. I'd like to introduce, although most in the audience I'm sure know most of us, I'd like to introduce us all so that if there are some strangers in the audience, or if we're strangers to someone, everybody knows who we are. And I'd like us to raise hands as I call your names. I'm Bob Castengren, and I'm the president of the board, currently serving. I also serve on the Policy and Curriculum Committee, the Transportation Committee, and the Recreation Committee. Dan Jensen is our vice president. He's chair of our Personnel Finance Committee and our Tech Committee. Paul Byro, our treasurer, he chairs the Policy and Curriculum Committee, and he also serves on the Tech Committee.
No, just for me, but if
I miss Doug.
I can hear
Doug Schwartz.
background noise.
Doug serves as the chair of
Yeah, we can't stand here though, because I'm going to be paying him back and forth.
and he's also our clerk.
I'll try it back here.
Dawn Bluemel is our director, and she serves on our Policy and Curriculum Committee, Transportation and Recreation Committees. She's the newest person that you've elected to our board, and we're pleased to have someone who works in the professional education field with us. Chris Yoke, our district superintendent. He's our chief executive officer and our chief operating officer, all rolled into one. Kathy Hoppy. Kathy, would you please stand? I want them to see the whole you and not just your hand. Because Kathy's new to us, and she is our assistant district superintendent and our curriculum director. And she brings a wealth of experience to our district. Cannon Heath, our director of technology. Our principals. And as you raise your hand, I'd like you to indicate how long you've been in your position. Darlene Markle of our middle school. How long?
I believe it's been 38 years in this district.
Can you top this? Chris Malthoff, Evergreen.
I'm not even 38 years old. I've been with the district, this is my 14th year.
Shirley Gulick, Woodfield.
18 years.
Jeff Wargle, Trailside.
13 years at Trailside, my 35th year in the district. I just can't seem to catch up to Darlene here.
Darlene started when she was 10, though.
Mary Stefanik, our district bookkeeper.
18 years. I started the senior show.
Ann Johnson, district secretary.
Take a guess. I don't know.
I wonder, is Sandy Asmussen in the audience by any chance? Sandy is our director of special education cooperative. And special education, of course, is a very important component of our school district. How about Tim Doherty? Is he in the audience? Tim has just taken on the title of heading up our PTO, our parent-teacher organization. And you know, we just cannot say enough about the PTO for all the volunteer help that they do and the financial help that they give the school. How about Susie Schuyler? Is she here? Susie heads up the recreation department. And I can tell you that when I first came on the board, our recreation department had a long history of losing money. And since Susie came on the board, we've turned it around, and the recreation department is now a money-making portion of our board. How about, are there any former board members in the audience? Sometimes. None tonight. Okay. I want to tell you that in my business life, I've always tried to hire people who are smarter than me. And as I go through these introductions, I want you to know we don't have any weak links in this district. You property taxpayers can be proud to know that we're providing our 1,500 plus students with the best education, I think, in the entire state of Wisconsin. So, on to reports from administrators.
This will happen.
On that positive note, I get to share the achievement updates, particularly with the state Wisconsin Knowledge and Concepts exam. Just a reminder before we look at the information that over the past year, the scoring for this state assessment changed. The requirements for the proficient, advanced, minimal, and basic changed. So the state's goal for the reading is to be 50% or higher. So I've highlighted all of the grade years and grade levels that are in that ballgame. And then also the math, the goal is 60% at this time. So there was a change because the previous state assessment was not as rigorous as some of the other states. And so it was one of the pieces in moving forward to a new assessment model that we wanted to increase the rigor and goals and achievement for our state, our students in the state of Wisconsin. So first of all, we have Evergreen Elementary School, and you can see from all of the ones that are in red. Red is a great thing. It is all of the years and grade levels in the last 5 years in which our student scores were above the 50th percentile in reading and 60th percentile in mathematics. If you take a look on page 12 in the booklet, you'll see lots of good data in there. The only school district that typically ranks ahead of us is, if you look on page 12, is of course Whitefish Bay. Otherwise, we are right in there in the rankings and are leading most of the other areas and grade levels, which is just exemplary. Trailside Elementary School with reading and math scores that are exceeding the state expectation at this time. Woodfield Elementary School has many in the reading and all but one in the math. So excellent. And Fox River in reading and then mathematics. So as a result of that, we're doing many things well. Teachers are working very hard. It's exciting for me to be in this district because teachers are really trying to do the best for kids. And some of the pieces that we want to continue to develop, which is similar to any other schools across the state, but I think we're trying to move forward in 3 particular areas, and that is to continue to identify strong student interventions so that we can do a really good job of diagnosing when students are falling behind and what exactly can we do to make sure that and ensure that our students get right back into those grade level pieces. So we're doing that quite heavily this year. We're continuing to review and revise our curriculum, looking at the strengths and the weaknesses, looking at the Common Core, looking at other pieces that are good instruction. So it's a combination of things that we're looking at. And then continue with strong professional development. There's been a history of that over the years, but in particular looking at specific content, staff development in literacy, and then continuing to support the mathematics also. So I think you can be proud as a school district. When I look at all of this new data and information, I can see that we are a high-achieving school district. And as always, we're going to continue to strive to make it for every child, ensure that every child is making it so to be successful in their life. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, I just want to give you a brief overview of what kinds of things we've done in technology, and then just give you a brief snapshot of what we're looking at as the school year goes on and into the next year. Last school year, we spent a majority of our time updating our infrastructure, our back-end pieces that many of us probably don't see, except for myself and my team. It was much needed, so with the approval from the school board, we were able to replace a lot of our legacy switches that handle all of our information, to pass on all of our data from the back servers to our students and to our staff. So we were able to overhaul many of those pieces and increase performance and increase speed along with doing that. So we were able to do that at all 4 schools, at all the network closets. We were able to pretty much overhaul everything. It's been a big help in doing that. So not only that, we have one point of management now in case there's any troubles. We don't have 12 different switches to look at, and we can go in, have one place to go and manage what's going on and take a look at where we can find pieces of issues if there are any. Another piece we addressed was our desktops that students and staff were using. We were able to replace some of those aging desktops with laptops that gave the teachers some mobility pieces should they need to bring those in from the breakout areas and start working with students in small groups and work on some of the curricular pieces, but also gave us the ability to keep them in the bigger space should we have whole group instruction going on as well. So we did address some of those needs. Any remaining desktops, we were able to kind of upgrade the memory on them just to kind of give them a little bit more time, just to keep using them a little bit longer so that we can cut costs as much as we can, but yet provide a solution that we can use in the labs for when they're used for instruction. We also replaced our camera system at the middle school. That it was more of a legacy system, coax-based. We went to more of a network-based, gave us more flexibility. It just allows us to access our cameras from pretty much anywhere we have network connection now, and give access to Mrs. Markle and people that she has assigned to, so that we can make sure everybody's safe and all the students are safe. And we can also have the ability, should we need to give access to anybody, to police departments, should we need to do that, and they need to come in and take a look, we can do that. They can review it, and we can give exactly access to what they can see. So that just gave us a lot more leverage and ability to gather more information. All the hardware is really good. I get excited about them, but the more important part is I'm very fortunate to have a technology integrator on my team, and she's phenomenal, Sarah Shepke, and she is the glue, if you will, to bring all this together and provide guidance for the staff in all the different instructional pieces, instructional technology, whether it's just working with teachers on, hey, how do I anything from how do I get to my email, do attachments, things like that, to some of the more curricular pieces. So she'll work with them in morning meetings or work with them in the summers. She offers a summer class that she has approved through universities. Teachers can take those classes for credit and tailor those classes to fit right into curriculum pieces that we're working on in the district. She also has a website, Tech TV, that she puts out different tools and different things that teachers can take a look at to improve, integrate technology in their instruction, just to give more pieces for students to look at, students and teachers to look at for more resources. So we're really fortunate to have that piece in place. And then just looking ahead, as you just kind of heard maybe if you were here earlier, just looking at final pieces of that infrastructure portion, replacing our network storage and our servers that are running all of our programs that we have in the district, as well as just starting to look at discussions or begin discussions to replace some of the older teacher machines, as well as review and discuss some of those one-to-one options at the middle school. As if you may or may not know, we have a one-to-one program going with students having laptops. So just kind of reviewing how that's going and just looking to see what's next in that area. And then also continuing that staff development piece, which is very important, as I mentioned. So again, she covers a lot of those topics in the morning meetings with teachers. The digital resources, which is the website she has, as well as the summer offerings that I mentioned. So, any questions?
And I have a question. Will you briefly explain how many computers we have district-wide that are used for students and teachers as a whole?
It's it's pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio. So we have about 1,500 students, so we're pretty close to almost a 1-to-1 ratio district-wide.
So 1,500 computers. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks for your reports. The next on the agenda is to elect a chairperson for the annual meeting. So the floor is now open to nominate a chairperson for tonight's annual meeting.
I would like to nominate Gary Blumell.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary by Paul.
Second by-
And Dan for Gary.
Are there any other nominations for chairperson of tonight's meeting? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of having Gary Blumell serve as the chairperson for tonight's annual meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Gary, would you please come forward and take your position as chairman of the annual meeting?
I think you could actually work out what they call a vice chair.
So the next thing on the agenda is the adoption of ground rules, and they're printed in here. So there's in there, it's fill in the blank, so it asks for a number of minutes on a specific topic. I don't want to be here all night, so I'd like to keep that to a low number. I suggest 3 minutes. Anybody, you need a motion on this?
Also move.
Second on something?
I'll second that.
All right, one blank.
Thank you.
So that was Doug going, yeah.
Yes.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next. And here's the minutes of the last annual meeting of October 12. It's in here, if anyone wants to read through it. I didn't really want to read through it.
Somebody make a motion to waive.
Someone make,
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes.
Where, state your name? Stephanie.
state your name.
Brian Hurst.
I can't.
State your name first.
Who made it, Stephanie?
Yes.
Go.
A second. Brian Purse.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
How do you spell the names? Brian, what was it?
Purse, P-E-R-C-E.
R-T-E-R-C.
Okay, so then, we'll wait the reading of it, but then we need to approve the minutes, right?
Correct. Yes.
So, Any discussion, any corrections on the minutes that everyone wants to bring forth? I'd like a motion to approve. Somebody?
Motion to approve the written.
Second? Somebody?
Second.
Who's the second?
State your name.
Andrew Davis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we have the meeting of the special meeting in April. Here again, we need a motion to waive the reading of it.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes.
And a second? Oh, behind you.
I have correction.
I'm sorry, what?
I have corrections.
Okay, we're getting there. The, can you state your name and one second in the red?
Cindy Wesley. WES,
Okay. And then, looks like you have a correction.
It's a simple correction, and this was on a motion to elect a chair for this meeting. It was Jim Graff who made that motion.
Instead of who?
In October or April?
In April?
In the April meeting.
Instead of Jim Roth.
Instead of James Roth, it was James Groff, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other corrections to the April meeting? That's right there. You gotta speak up and state your name.
My name is what's involved. Under the election of the chairperson, there was a James Roth / Vince Punko. I'm Vince Punko, my name is misspelled.
Okay.
It's K-O at the end, not C-O.
Got that? Any other corrections? How about a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
Motion to approve as corrected. Andrew Davis.
I second, Bill Unke.
Got those?
Spell the last name, Bill?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Bill's last name.
UNK.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next one is the presentation of the budget. Superintendent Chris.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to this year's annual meeting. It's my pleasure, first off, to give you a quick summary of the district, and then specifically talk about budget and tax levy for this evening that's being proposed by the school board for the 13-14 school year. The first thing I'd like to point out, just to get your mind framed up, and for those of you that have seen this presentation either in a staff meeting or at the area municipal meeting, there are a couple of slides that are being repeated here. But I guess it's really important for me to set the tone tonight for you to understand, for the citizens to understand that working in public schools the last couple of years has been kind of like dealing with a card game, all right? And basically, two things you learn very quickly, and things that this district and the board have experienced, is that the first thing is that you can't control the hand that you're dealt. And then the second thing is that the ace can be a very, very powerful card. Moving ahead, this evening I'd like to point out or highlight and emphasize that your school district, the Waterford Graded School District, is an ace of a district. We are focusing on achievements, we've collectively conquered challenges, and we're pursuing some exciting endeavors for this school year. Just to highlight a few of the achievements, our first year of the new state report card, our rankings come up very high, some of the highest in the area. That's a credit to our administrators and our teachers. Trailside scored the highest last school year, just missing the significantly exceeding expectations by just a decimal point, a fraction of a point. Woodfield School last year was recognized by the state government for a school of Title I excellence. In other words, they were addressing the achievement gaps that kids were gaining, and so we received recognition there. We also had numerous individual student achievements, whether it's in music or art or even in academics. Our kids are high achieving, and again, that's a credit to the staff. And finally, most of you probably didn't know this, but our middle school principal, Mrs. Markle, was a finalist for State Principal of the Year. Again, it's a commendable honor considering there's 400 plus districts, and many of those districts have more than one middle school. Granted, she didn't win, wasn't the champion, but again, it's a tremendous honor to be a finalist for that. We're really proud of her efforts. Now we're going to move into the challenges that we've been looking at. First off, I'll get into a few more details about this in a few moments. The district has been experiencing some declining enrollment over the last 5 years. Essentially, ladies and gentlemen, when the economy came to a screeching halt, a year afterwards is when we experienced that here in the school district. So in other words, back in 08, 07, when the economy was really starting to slow down and slide into recession, it was probably about 08, 09 that the Waterford grade school district started to experience that. And what I mean by that specifically is pretty much an abrupt halt to residential development and new families moving into the district, okay? Secondly, and somewhat related to that, we've experienced significant declining revenue. And part of that, of course, is attributed to our declining enrollment. But when I'm talking about declining revenue, I'm talking about basically a reduction in state aid. And again, I'm going to get into specifics about that in just a few moments and show you some very specific numbers. I can tell you, just as a quick snapshot looking ahead to those numbers, that we took about an 8% reduction for this school year, over $800,000 reduction in state aid for one school year. That is significant. And in all honesty, we're in the top 10 for districts of taking that large of a hit in state aid. And for our size, only having just less than 1,500 kids, I think we were one of the smallest districts to take that large of a hit. And what I'm saying is, larger districts, and I'll just name a few, Madison, La Crosse, you see what I'm saying? Those larger districts obviously got reduced aid. But the point is when we're in that ranking, or in that grouping, that's significant, all right? The last piece, and I think a lot of you are aware of this, the political culture for public education and public employees overall has been a little bit cantankerous since Act 10 in the last couple of years. Above and beyond some of those real concrete challenges, there are some interesting things that are happening at the state level from the mandate angle of things that basically we're not quite sure if it's going to deal us a strong hand here in Waterford, or is it going to be a matter of 52 pickup. And if you know what 52 pickup is, basically the cards go up in the air, they're all scattered around, you have to try and figure out what to do. So what I'm saying is with the educator effectiveness and the smarter balanced assessment system, those all come into effect next school year. And there's a lot of piloting going around the state. We've got some pilots going on here in the district, but there's a lot of unknowns, again, stemming from mandates. Believe it or not, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, has also posed a lot of unknowns for us as an employer to our employees as far as the impact on fringe benefits. Not just current fringe benefits as far as the insurance is concerned, but also retirement benefits. So those are a lot of variables that we don't have all the answers to. And the PALS piece is just another state mandate specifically targeted at early reading and literacy skills that is continuing to expand. But again, it's a piece that has offered us a challenge as far as programming and proctoring the assessments. So we've looked at some achievements, we've looked at some challenges. Many of those challenges we've addressed collectively and aggressively. Now to get into specifics, about some of those challenges. Basically, to break this down real simply for you, there's 3 sources of revenue that a school district has. And the first one, and it's probably the most obvious one, and my guess is it's why most of you are here tonight, it's local property tax levy, okay? Secondly, state aid. And then the third part, or the third source of revenue, and it's actually the smallest piece of the pie when it comes to state revenue, is grants, student fees, and any tuition we get from open enrollment situations. So those are the 3 sources of revenue for a school district. Now, to circle around on something I mentioned earlier, the district has lost over $1.5 million in state aid, all right, since 2011. Since 2010, our enrollments declined by 114 students. And I think a lot of you know this because you're homeowners. Property values have also gone down in the area. And since 2010, the Waterford, the municipalities that feed into the Waterford Graded School District, property values have dropped about 5.6%, or just short of $70 million. Again, those are all factors working against the school district. What I want to point out, though, conversely, in case you're saying or wondering, well, Chris, why has the aid gone down so much? Basically, state aid is calculated on two things, ladies and gentlemen. It's calculated on your enrollment, and the enrollment's going down. The second thing that the state aid is calculated on, the second biggest factor, is your property values. Okay? The interesting thing about property values, while we've experienced property value decline here in the Waterford Graded School District, it's not nearly as much as other school districts around the state. For example, a district right down the road, Burlington, their property value decrease since 2010 has been 10%. Lake Geneva, not too far away from here, has experienced a 20% decline in property value. So what I'm saying is when the state figures out how much aid goes out to the districts, that property value piece is in the calculation. And so for districts that are losing more property value or whose property value goes down steeper, they will get more state aid. Does that make sense to you? And so what I'm saying is because our property values haven't gone down as significantly or as severely as some other districts or most districts around the state, our aid has gone down more because they're shifting that aid to those other districts where where the property values have gone down significantly. Does that make sense? So basically, because our property values have remained flat, gone down a little bit, and are declining enrollment, that's why we've taken a larger hit in our state aid. What have we done to address that? Well, I've got two columns of examples for you. And it ranges from refinancing things, changing vendors for different services that we use, getting people certified in some insurance programs, reducing staff, setting aside fund balance for larger projects. But the point is that the district and the administration and the board have taken some very significant steps over the last 2 years. And again, many of them are listed out here to address our decline in revenue. Now let's get to the dollars and cents of the proposal for 13-14 as far as the budget is concerned. What we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, the proposal for local sources for revenue is concerned, and local sources is both tax money and tuition and fees, okay? We're looking at about 8.8 million. Interdistrict interdistrict payments, basically that's open enrollment money. So students that we get from other districts through the state open enrollment process, we're looking at about $863,000, $864,000 in tuition coming from all those other districts. We're looking at about 6.1, just short of $6.2 million in state aid. And then we've got about just short of $200,000 coming from the federal government. So all in all, we're looking at about $16 million in revenue coming into the district. When contrasted to last school year, we were at about 17.5. It's a significant drop. So let's take a look at the expense side. Instruction, there's three areas on the expense side, as you can see. We've got instruction support services and non-program services. Instruction basically is all your core area teachers and their benefits. Support services are the administrators and non-core area teachers such as counselors, social workers, custodial staff, that type of thing. And then the non-program services, the big two right there are open enrollment expenses for students that are leaving our district to go to other districts and the cost of special education. So you will notice that it's not a balanced budget proposal as far as what the expenses are versus the revenues. So you might be wondering, well, Chris, why are you not presenting a balanced budget? What it boils down to, ladies and gentlemen, is two things. First off, we have forecasted within the expense portion here to have some major maintenance projects done. And the board, at the conclusion of last fiscal year, so that would have been June 30th of 2013, agreed to designate part of its reserve or its fund balance for those maintenance projects. So what I'm saying is there's money set aside to take care of those maintenance projects, but it's sitting in the reserve fund. So that automatically creates a deficit. The money's there, it's set aside. So you don't necessarily need to worry about that. The second part is because last year we had a very good year as far as the revenue, as you can see, exceeding the expenses. We're going to tap into that reserve to cover whatever revenue is not met on the expense side. So basically, the long and short of it is the deficit or the difference between these two numbers is going to be covered from the surplus from last year. Does that make sense? Our surplus is very, very healthy for a district our size, and we're very proud of what we've been able to do about that. Here's another way of looking at the numbers. Essentially, this is what the levy is looking like tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking at a 2% increase over the levy from last year. The levy was about $10,400,000. The levy request and recommendation from the school board is $10.6 million. And that is broken into two areas: general operating expenses, the Fund 10, and then the debt service fund. The debt service covers referendum costs from the early 2000s for the Trailside and Woodfield new schools, as well as some remodeling that had been done in Fox River. So essentially that's what the ultimate number is we're looking for approval for tonight. The impact as far as the mill rate, it's about, it's about $72 per $200,000 house. So just to break it down to some real concrete numbers for you, it's about $72 for a $200,000 home. The last thing I'd like to highlight is a couple of things that we're really excited about this school year, and it finishes up the acronym for ACE. Remember, Achievements, Conquering Challenges, and Exciting Endeavors. We've got some exciting professional development or training lined up again for this year. We're looking, as Mr. Cannon and Keith talked about, some technology pieces. We're looking at some technology enhancing and solidifying our background. And we're looking at a tablet initiative for grades K through 2. And then the last exciting piece is we are starting a Title I preschool in about a month to 6 weeks from now to service 4-year-old children who need some intervention prior to entering 5-year-old kindergarten. With that concludes my budget presentation, as well as the summarizes what the district goals and achievements are. And I think after that, you'll agree that you are an ace of a district. Thanks for coming this evening. Jim.
Can you talk a little bit about the fund balance?
Sure.
You talked about that the board has decided to dip into that. So how big is the fund balance?
Yes. The fund balance at the beginning of this fiscal year, July 1, was around $7.2 million. Mary? Yeah, $7.2 million. And the target for school districts is to have around 30% of your budget set aside or covered by the fund balance. And so if you're looking at a $16 million budget or $17 million budget, the target would be $5 million. So we've got a little bit over $2 million to work with there. Thanks for the question.
I have another question that's not budget related, but I finally had time to look at this stuff, but I want to make sure.
Okay. If you have other or more time in the back of your booklet tonight, I did some comparable district information as far as the mill rates, as far as the state aid reduction, and as far as the levies and so on. So I just thought that would be a good reference point. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. This goes back to, I'm sorry, we got our name.
Kathy? Mrs. Hoppy?
Okay, page 12, the page 12 question. Is there, this is specific to this district, but there seems to be a sort of a drop-off in performance. Kids gain through the grade school years and then drop off when there was not dissimilar across the districts. Is there
rationale for that?
There is some overall information that when students move to a new school, that you have a slight decrease in achievement until the students can get reacclimated to the school. So I think it's good in this district that we only have one change in schools. And also middle school is a whole different level of reading and thinking, and we're working a lot with interdisciplinary reading, which is reading in science and reading in social studies. So I think the level of vocabulary and things is increasing quite heavily in the 7th and 8th grade level. So you see a similar pattern across the state. But it's something that we are talking about working. This year we're having the 6th grade teachers and the 7th and 8th grade teachers in all of the Clinton areas talking together to work on how we're, how we can bridge that gap.
The other piece I would add to Mrs. Hoppy's response, Jim, is that for several years, the cut score, the expectation at the middle school was higher disproportionately than it was at the elementary levels. So not only were they changing schools, but the state's expectation was there's more of a jump there. And so, like you pointed out, that statewide trend of a decline at middle school isn't necessarily unexpected just because the expectations are higher there.
I wondered if that was
Yeah.
the case relative to the testing.
Yeah, good question. Go ahead, sir.
Eric Hampton, Riverside Road, Waterford.
Welcome.
Question for you. Did you indicate we're starting a K-4 program? Did I misunderstand that? Question number 2 is, the governor just signed a bill, I believe, giving $100 million back to the school districts. Do you know how much we're going to get here? And what impact will that have on the 2% that you want to use?
Right. The first question was about a 4K program. We are starting a preschool program, and that is different from a district-wide 4K program. And the preschool program specifically targets kids. So in other words, a 4K program would be open to everybody. The preschool program targets kids of academic need. So we're anticipating 15, 20 children at the most, of the most academically need. Second part of that is that particular program is not funded through the tax levy. It's actually funded through a federal grant. So the salaries, the supplies, the transportation, all that's funded through the Title I program. The second question that the gentleman had was about the governor signed into law yesterday as far as tax relief. There's 2 parts to that. First off, from what I understand, every property owner will be getting like a $13 credit, school tax levy credit on their tax bill come December. And then next year it's supposed to be around $20 or $22. That's the first part. So no matter where you live, I'll get $13, you'll get $13, everyone gets $13 on their bill. The second part of that though is there's also an adjustment in the levy level, or the amount of aid coming to districts. The projection that we received last week is about $89,000, but the state has said a couple of times in the last 48 hours, the final numbers will be out Wednesday. So if the board decides to drop the taxation levy even lower, that's probably about probably a 0.7 or 0.8 decrease if they were to go all that way, if they were to do that.
Do we have any specific questions on the budget? Otherwise, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I motion we approve the budget. Andrew Davis.
We have a second?
I'll second. Bill Lunky.
Any more discussion on the budget? Then I'd like to take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's good. I guess then there's a number 12 on the agenda specifically to adopt a tax levy, which was basically approving of the budget with the tax. So it's a similar type motion, I'd like to get a motion to approve the tax levy as presented in the budget.
Can I ask a question before we do that?
Sure.
Sir, you were saying that based on what's going to happen on Wednesday, that levy may change?
That's correct. At the end of the meeting, when the citizens approve a tax levy, it's an advisory vote.
Okay.
And so the board always has the discretion to adjust the levy as needed, and they'll be doing that on Tuesday the 5th.
Can it go any higher than 2%?
Yes. Will it? No.
Promise?
I'm gonna be honest. Initially in the newspaper, I proposed a 4% increase, and that was because of the numbers that had come in at that point. New numbers came in. I've dropped down to 3%, and then the group behind me last week said, let's keep it at 2%. So I would be shocked if it went over 2%.
Okay. Anybody on the board got any intention of making it more than 2%? Then I motion to adopt the 2%, but if you can get it less, get it less.
What Mary had just said, and I know you probably didn't hear it, is that 89,000 that I told you about is already built in the budget as far as income.
It's already in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just so you know that. The only other piece I would tell you as far as I gotta find the page here. Just a second. Page 8 in your booklet. It says 2% increase, and I'm sure you see that. The number right above that where it says 10.8 million, it should be 10.6. 10.607, something like that. That wasn't corrected.
We have a motion to approve the levy, we are looking for a second.
Second, Ryan first.
Well, I think we need to first correct the number that should be on the, instead of 10.8, it should show 10.6.
Sure. What's the amount of that?
10.607206. That's what was on the PowerPoint. So that's what it needs to be. Because that 10.8 would be that 4%.
Gotcha.
It'd be 10 point what?
10.6. Exactly.
So the budget figure's changing now?
The budget, it's not changing. Basically, it's changing from your booklet. Okay. The budget number from the presentation is the same. So it should be 10,607,206.
So you should have a motion for that correction first.
I think that's just a clerical correction. It was presented with that, the number was presented on the slide, it's just correcting your paperwork.
Yep.
So I don't think that's really a motion, it's just a clerical correction.
Okay.
So I think we have a motion, and you're a second, right, or no? Was a second? Yeah.
I've got him right here, Lenny. Well, who made the first? Mr. Davis.
Andrew Davis.
And then here's
38-year veterans on top.
Any more discussion on the tax levy?
You used to jump around crowds, huh? The right number?
I'd like to speak to the motion. Is that?
Sure, yes. Go ahead.
Matt Cronick, 30936 Royal Hill Road. I'm going to vote in favor of the motion, but I don't really share the same sentiment as the maker of the motion. I feel that if we want to have quality education, if we want to continue the quality of education that we have here in Waterford Great School District, we have to be mindful of teacher salaries, administrative salaries, and just that it should go as low as possible, given that the superintendent explained in great detail the decrease in revenue coming into this district. While I will vote for this because of a very good position with the savings, it's 40%, where the state, I think, recommends about 30%. It it's a good time to buy down that levy down to about 2%, but that's not something you can do year after year. And again, while I support this motion, I don't think that we should be reckless and just always support the least spending for the young children in this district. Thanks.
Do we have any other comments on the tax levy? Let me take a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Then we're up to number 13 on the agenda. Motion to establish salaries for the school board members.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you want me here or can I
Yeah,
do it here?
there was better, so we can read them.
Oh, okay. Inasmuch as the Waterford...
Turn around here so you can use the mic somehow.
Oh, okay. Inasmuch as the Waterford...
Read your name first.
Oh, Deborah Schroeder, 28645.
Tamara Trail.
Inasmuch as the Waterford Graded School District has about 45% more students than the high school, and inasmuch as the Waterford Graded School Board manages an annual budget that is about 35% higher than the high school, it seems appropriate that the Waterford Graded School Board members receive compensation that is at least equal to the level paid to the high school board members. Accordingly, I make a motion that the Waterford Graded School Board members receive compensation in the amount of $3,900 for the coming school year, and in addition, that the Waterford Graded School Board members receive an immediate payment of $3,400 each to compensate for the fact that they were not paid for the past school year, while all the other feeder schools and the high school boards were paid. Thank you.
I second. Andrew Davis.
Okay, we have a first and a second, so we now it's open for discussion.
Is this the 3-minute time thing, or is there a list, or would you...
Yes, it's still under 3-minute time limit.
Okay.
My name is Mandy Fewig, 4821 Riverside Road. Just a little background, I'm a mother of 5, 4 who currently attend Fox River and Evergreen, as well as a 3-year-old at home. I worked in this district from 98 to 06 as a special education teacher assistant. I have maintained close relationships with many staff, and therefore have heard firsthand how the district has changed in regards to teacher respect and staff morale. Because of these reasons, I feel very strongly about what I'm about to say. Listed are reasons why I feel the board should continue to not be paid. The top reason not to pay the board, and truthfully the superintendent shouldn't be paid either, is the result of the morale surveys and the exit interviews that are posted online. These surveys posted show that the teachers have had issues and concerns since November 2012 and well before that, according to the survey date. The board actually requested a second survey in the spring. It does not appear that anything has been done to correct or even address any of the staff concerns in either of the surveys. As a result, it appears that the school has lost several long-term and new teachers. The board has not demonstrated that they have expectations of the superintendent. While teachers are held to high standards, the superintendent does not appear to have those same standards. The board is responsible for evaluating the superintendent and assuring the superintendent is meeting the expectation of his job descriptions per policy number 231. Going through that job description, there are at least 11 items that directly relate to the staff morale. With the results of these surveys, those should receive the lowest scores for those items. And I'll read just a few of those. I don't know how you read these. Policy 1A4, support the continued improvement and humanization of the school climate in the district. Another one is C, number 7, ensure that the district maintains positive school and community relations via a cooperative effort between the board, administrators, teachers, and support staff. Number 2, letter A, number 7, demonstrate behavior that is professional, ethical, and responsible, be a role model for all district staff.
Mandy, 1 minute.
Okay. Letter C, number 3, understand the dynamics, motivations, and values of groups within the school system and those served by the school system. Work with them and help them work together, cope with change in the schools, generate confidence, and stimulate people to follow the established direction, contribute fresh and realistic solutions to problems. And one more here. Number 5, letter A, number 5 under letter A, strive to develop and maintain positive staff morale and loyalty to the school district. In response to the superintendent's communication to the board on July 26, 2013, the board president states the following: teacher surveys are always a problem. If you ask me anonymously if you are doing enough for me, the answer is always no. I'm convinced you are doing the best we can at this time. Hopefully we can do even better in the future. With this statement, only 2 things can be deduced. Either the board president is not getting the full story from the superintendent, or the board president also has a lack of understanding of the issue.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
That was 3 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
sorry. Next.
Matt Chronic 30936 Royal Road. I ask that you allow this motion to come to a vote, and if you disagree with it, just vote it down. Let's not get bogged down with amending and stuff like last time. Certainly there'll be a motion immediately if it fails, and we can vote for no pay for the board, which is what I'll be voting for. Some of you probably know the issues, but 90-some employees did a survey, and overwhelmingly, over 80-some% described the climate teaching here, teaching our young kids as awful, as intimidation and fear. Then of the 17-some employees that left, 14 that completed an exit interview. They sat down with an employee of the district and they were asked questions and they responded. And I commend the district for going through that process because we have some very blunt responses from these wonderful teachers that left, that have great resumes, they're talented, and they got jobs at a time when the state is flooded with teachers because of all the layoffs. It's a very hard time to get hired elsewhere, and they did it, most of them. If it wasn't for open records requests, a lot of us wouldn't even know about this. For 9 months, the board has sat on this information and not talked about it, not shared it. They've been elected to govern the school district, but it's not a private company. They are supposed to share this information with us, and they have not. So I ask that you vote no to this motion.
Yeah, sorry. Would you need to really raise your hand first, so just...
That's okay, I do my exercise. Andy Davis, Tamarack Road, 2605, 21 year.
The mic, sir. Your mic got turned off.
Oh, that's okay, I'm too loud anyway. There we go. All right, and start. Andy Davis, 2605 Tamarack Trail. First of all, 21-year Air Force veteran. I am a school teacher as well at Greenfield. And, I just got off the phone today with the OG of one of the gangs in Milwaukee about one of my cadets. So, it's teaching here in Waterford, it's a gift. Every day is Christmas compared to what I deal with every day. So I see it from both sides. I have leadership in peacetime and deployed combat operations, so I know a little bit about leadership. These guys were voted in by the taxpayers to do a job. If these guys weren't coming to the meetings and holding meetings, sure, don't pay them. But you do. It's ironic that there's people here with bullying shirts on today. Guess what? I'm here to report bullying. Everybody who's planning on voting no, you're the kid that's holding that little guy up on the against the locker, and your clenched fist is your vote. You are. You may want to rationalize, you may want to deny it, but you are. You're the punk. You're the one to make yourself feel better about doing something. I'm going to take away something from them. Grow up. You don't like it? Vote them out.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Hey, they're doing the job. There's people in there, teachers that have educated my kids and did a great job. Fantastic job, and keep doing it. And they may not like to hear what I'm saying right now. You think every time that we don't like what's going on in your classroom that we should vote to hold your pay down? What are you, nuts? Okay, let's grow up. They're doing a job. They got voted in. It's not what you want. What's the taxpayer? You think I like what's going on in D.C.? You wait till the next election. That's the American way. So don't be a part of the problem. Don't be a whiner. These guys are busting their end. They're making good financial decisions. Let's see what else I missed.
1 minute.
1 minute.
Give more time.
Yeah, don't use your vote for vengeance. I put my rear end on the line for 21 years to protect everybody, including my right to vote. Okay? Glad to do it.
But when you're using your vote for vengeance or to hurt someone, you're wrong. Be the adult in the room. If the kids in your classroom for you teachers that are going to vote against this acted like you're acting, you'd be the first ones to complain. And let's face it, I work with teachers. There's 20% of the teachers that are fantastic. There's 60% that are okay, but they're doing a good job. And there's 20% that are punching a clock and waiting to retire. And you got a great retirement system, and you got great benefits. And you guys know I'm telling the truth. We work all together in the teaching community. I know, it's the truth. It doesn't say they're bad teachers, they're just punching a clock. So don't use your vote to hurt someone, be nice. Peyton Manning went back to Indianapolis yesterday, and the people on the other side of the field clapped for him and thanked him. Clap for these people and thank them. They're doing a good job.
Time's up.
Ryan Purse, 4637 Northwest Highway. If anybody thinks these guys should get their pay taken, you guys are crazy. How many people here are going to go to their jobs and their boss is going to give them a bad review so then you shouldn't get paid? These guys take time away from their families every day. Well, probably every day. I don't know for sure. But to take their pay away, all right, so Aurora Healthcare, for example, nobody likes that. Should we not pay the healthcare providers? President Barack Obama gets bad reviews every day. Let's take his pay. Don't take these guys' pay. This is ridiculous.
Hang on one second, Watson. We'll make sure there's no other persons that want to second.
He already spoke. I mean, he's gonna be able to come back up the second time. You don't get another time up.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Robert's rules, I get to speak. I got my hand up.
The rules are that we're not having rebuttal time.
Motion hasn't been called. I got my hand up, Robert's rules, I got to speak.
You only give him 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Dan had his hand up first. I want to make sure everybody else has a chance.
He had his hand up
chance.
first?
No, I'm making sure everybody has a chance before you have a second chance.
Put your hand up. Unfortunately, there's no rebuttal time in the minutes.
Everybody else is going to get a chance
nothing to do
before you
with
get a second
rebuttals.
chance.
It doesn't. But you can see from Matt's stance, this is what we have to deal with. I'd just like to say to Mandy, I'm extremely disappointed that you would attack the district administrator. Chris Yo is an administrator who works extremely hard to do the tough thing. Yes, did we have to switch bus vendors? Yes, we did. Did we feel bad for us? Everybody on this board felt bad that we had to switch the bus company. But we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what's the option? Is it to get rid of more kindergarten teachers or first grade teachers? How about get rid of the music program? I'm the biggest proponent on the school board for music anywhere. In fact, I even voted to put in an orchestra, which we're doing great with our orchestra. I would be welcome anybody come and see it. The kids love the orchestra. But Mr. Yo has a very difficult job. Did we have to outsource cleaning? Yes, we did. Did we have to outsource the busing to a different company? The high school already had that. Most people around here already had Dousman Transport. Was it a hard decision? It was personally a very hard decision because we had such a long time spent with that bus company, but we saved more money to keep the kids there. Did we raise taxes? We've kept taxes to a minimum. 3 years of 0, now we have 2 years of 2%. In this climate right now, that's extremely good. And Mr. Yoke has been at the forefront of bringing up things that we can save money on, whether it's getting another lawyer group, whether it's going to Associated Bank instead of a different one. Every little place we can sprint and save money, we've done that. And meanwhile, this business of saying we haven't done anything with the teachers' reviews that came forth, we didn't even know about it until they showed up on our doorstep. It wasn't the school board that put that together, it was a group of teachers which were all anonymous in what they said. We've taken extremely serious. This is our school district too. Do we want a school district that everybody's saying, oh, the teachers hate working there? That's absolutely false. We've taken extremely, and a lot of the things are private. We can't discuss them in public with Matt. Matt would like to have his camera everywhere, but unfortunately, he can't be in those private meetings. Now, if you'd like to be on the school board, run for the school board, but don't say badmouth everybody. It's just ridiculous. But in general, we've done everything we can to save money. We take extremely important trying to keep the teachers happy. But in this environment in the state, can you make everybody happy? No. We have, and I asked Chris Yo, our administrator, to review other school districts in this area to see what was the turnover rate of the school teachers. And we're no different than the other districts, but you try portraying it like somehow we've had all our teachers leave. We'd have some teachers leave, yes, we have, and so have other districts to the same percentage.
That's right.
But you know what? The teachers we got in are great teachers. So you bad-mouthing and Mandy telling us how we're doing a terrible job bad-mouthing the people that work here, I believe 100% in our teachers. Our teachers are great teachers at every level. And we have a review process every year.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I think this gentleman, come on up, we have a count next.
I'm Jim Hutchison from Village
Come on
Rochester.
down.
I'm up and
We all can hear you.
You all can hear me. And I move to amend the motion to an annual salary for the school board of $3,400 with no compensation for last school year. Now, the explanation of that, I mean, that's my motion. So the school board last year received 1/4 of salary before the annual meeting, and so, you know, they were really only cut last year for the 3/4. So anyway,
There's a motion and a second on the floor, and that has to be handled before you can have another motion.
I am making a motion to amend that motion. Yeah?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can't amend the motion. Okay, you need a second on that first, but let's be clear on your motion here. I want to say it back over here. It was $3,400. The motion was $3,900 for next year and $3,400 for last year. You're amending that to $3,400 for next year.
For this current year.
For the current year and 0 for last year.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, you need a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
You need to state your name, please.
Joseph. With the condition that.
It's an amendment to the amendment.
Just a second or 2 seconds from now.
I'll give you a hug later.
The person that made the original motion has to.
I have a question. Doesn't the first motion have to be voted on before you make the amendment?
Yes, it does. Yeah, you can't just start modifying motions like that when you have a motion and a second. You're in discussion right now, and that's where we are.
We were in discussion on motion 1. Now you need to take a vote on motion 1.
Yes.
No. Hang on, let's
As far as point, ladies and gentlemen, as far as point of order, what needs to happen here is the person of the original motion, so I think that's Mrs. Schrader, needs to accept the amendment.
No, and Mr. Hutchinson is 100% correct. Once you have the original motion, it's open to discussion, was seconded. Now it can be modified any number of times. And he's modifying the original motion to whatever his current one is. He needs a second on that, then you vote on that modification to the original motion. And once that's taken care of, you go back to whatever the final outcome is, and you take a vote on that. So he is correct on the rules of order and what he's doing right now.
So can I amend his amendment?
Not
Now we
until
have to
his-
vote on the amendment?
Not yet, but after his is seconded, possibly.
It just was.
Okay, now we would have to have a discussion and vote on his amendment. Once his amendment passes, you could make an amendment to whatever is left after he's done.
Once his amendment passes.
Once his amendment is voted on,
So
passes or
his
fails.
amendment gets voted on, but the first motion does not.
He's modifying the first one. And once
Right.
his is passed or failed, then it's back to an open floor. And if you want to, you can motion or however you want to modify whatever is currently being voted on.
If
But
this
it really makes no
passes,
sense about me, but.
If his passes, do we?
why is it necessary to go back to the first
Well,
one?
it's a rule of order. For example, you can, somebody can bring up a motion, and any number of people can bring up amendments to that motion. You can't amend an amendment, but you can amend his motion. So, for example, she said something, Jim said he wants to modify that. You take a vote on that. You have a final outcome. And then other people can make motions to amend whatever that outcome was. And you do as many motions as you need to, so either somebody calls it for a vote, or nobody has any other amendments, and then you vote on the final outcome of whatever was done. So we're on a first and second.
Okay, so we have amendment to the motion, so we still have open discussion. So raise your hand if you would like to come up and speak.
Let me just explain one more thing before we do this. So, when you take a vote on Jim's amendment, you're just voting on modifying the original, not passing or voting against the original. You're voting on the amendment that he's brought up. So if Jim brought up, say that he wants to paint the school green in this motion, you're voting on whether or not you want to paint the school green for the amendment. And then the whole motion would be to pay the school board and paint the school green. And that the whole thing is voted on together. So each motion, and the motion is standing, each amendment is an individual thing you vote on. Correct, Jim?
Correct.
Okay, so we're still.
If it passes,
Correct.
So
So we're
if
still.
it passes, then it amends the original motion, and the original motion then is
Is
what
voted
the
on.
amendment. If it doesn't pass, then the original motion is still.
Correct.
Okay, so anybody else would like to speak on the, I want to give opportunity for everybody to speak once before we go on to people that would like to speak a second time. So if anybody else would like to speak on
On the amendment.
amendments.
I have a severe hearing problem, and I'm not sure I understand the difference between the motion, which I understand the money, I'm for that.
Yeah, let me just clarify that, because this gets tricky sometimes. Because if you don't have to deal with Robert Rules of Order, which are pretty long, drawn out, kind of drab to read. Anyways, it starts with somebody making a motion, and then somebody has to second it. So then you have a motion on the floor. Then people can make as many amendments as they would like to.
That's not my question. My question is, what is the substance of the first motion? It was to pay the board both this year and last year.
The first motion was for $3,900 for this current school year and $3,400 back pay.
Okay, and he wants to say zero for back
Yes,
pay?
now the amendment was for $3,400 for the current year and zero for back pay.
But if you vote yes for that, there's no reason to go back to the first motion, am I
Well,
correct?
unfortunately, the motion's still open until all amendments are finished.
But if I say zero for the last, I don't want to pay anything for last year, why would we even think about voting for the motion originally?
Yeah, well, what you get the chance is to
Along the
vote.
same line Debbie's thinking.
Yeah, well, you get the chance to vote for and against every amendment is what it comes out to.
Let's take them one at a time.
Yeah. Well, no, what it is, we're still in the same one. I just want to make sure everybody understands amendments to a motion, because sometimes it's pretty difficult to understand. So the original motion is still open, and it doesn't close. Jim's amendment is what we're taking up right now and voting on. But I'm just here, I'm not the chair, I'm just trying to make sure everybody understands Robert Rules of Order. So the motion is still open, and it'll stay there. Whatever happens with Jim's amendment modifies the original motion, or doesn't, based on the vote. And then anybody else can make an amendment.
So we're voting on the amendment.
We're voting only on the amendment right now.
Okay, first we're asking for if there's any discussion on the amendment, or we'll take a vote on the amendment if there's no discussion, but it's just on the amendment at this point in time, which is kind of contradicting to the original motion, but that's what makes it confusing. So, come on up.
My name is Maggie Keenest, I live in Waterford Woods.
Use the microphone.
Can you bring the mic down close to your mouth?
My name is Mandy Keenest, I live in Waterford Woods. I'm not a teacher, I'm not an important person, but I really believe in fairness. I don't understand why you'd be willing to pay them for next year, but don't pay them for the salary they earned last year. It doesn't make any sense. This has become a grudge fight with some people who are unhappy what's happened. I do agree with the gentleman over there. We vote people in. When they're voted in, we're told they're going to be paid a certain fee. We ought to be at least straightforward enough to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, I think your amendment is wrong. I think we should go with the first thing that Mrs. Schroeder said. They should be paid for last year and this year. If you take exception to what they're doing, then vote them out. If you can do better, get on the school board. But don't do these petty little things like, we're going to take your pay away. It's so graceful, it's so stupid. Come on. Think about what you're doing and give them a fair break. They're working hard.
Any more discussion on the amendment? You proposed an amendment, hang on, I want to see if somebody else does first. Does anybody else have any discussion on the amendment? Anybody else? Okay, come on.
Jim Hutchison from the Village of Rochester. And
What is the name?
Jim Hutchison from the Village of Rochester. My amendment was based upon the no back pay question was that, one, the board received compensation for the first quarter of last school year. I think that's correct. That was the information I had. Is that correct? None of you paid it back after the annual meeting. Right.
Jim, the compensation goes annual meeting to annual meeting.
You can't back undo.
So they received compensation regardless for the school year. As part of this, we're talking about school year. Now we're saying annual meeting to annual meeting relative to compensation. So so they received part of that, and there were two meetings held. First, the annual meeting in October of last year, and the special meeting in April, which was, the April meeting was put forward by the board to address this specific concern about compensation for that. And the decision of the citizens at both of those meetings was that they would receive no pay. Okay, so a proposal to change that then countermands what two citizen groups, people that were here and voted, to change that. So I am opposed to that. For that reason, two citizen groups already decided to do that. So I do think that the school board needs to be paid. I was on the high school board at one point. I know how much work it is, and they deserve to be paid for that.
Thank you. Yes, yeah, first, but then I'll take that one. Go ahead.
James McCann, 4317 Golf Lane. I just want to say for all the people that are here, that this board here is no different than any other board in the private sector or anything like that. They have hard decisions that they have to make, and you may not like all the decisions, but they deserve their pay. And for it, you know, my kids have been going to school here ever since kindergarten, and I've had no problems with any teachers, any principals, or anything. I think they've all been top notch. All of you are top notch. But if you're going to sit here and vote no pay for these guys, you're proving pettiness and unprofessionalism. None of you would ever show up. If the board yanked your pay away, you would not show up tomorrow. So to expect them to work for nothing is pure pettiness, and you wouldn't do it either.
Can I speak? My name is Joan Beck.
Yes.
I don't have any notes. Everybody in front is saying how these men work and they deserve to be paid. I do one great deal of volunteering. I did daycare in my home when parents were laid off. I would, if both parents worked and one parent was laid off, I honestly would not accept pay from that parent until both parents had their job back. I would also like to say that I only voted for the pay to come back because when the elections come up, I would like to see better candidates out there, and those are the candidates that my vote is going for that money to be put back in. I want teachers to be respected in this school and all schools. I was on a school committee which was like a private school board, but it wasn't a private school. I dealt with people that had no money for tuition. I asked them, you know, if you can just get $5 more a week. Some of them were very wealthy and they still had financial downfalls. But you do what you have to do to make things better. All I ask for you to think tonight is to make this better. I'm not saying the school board's bad. I know some of the people on it. I have known them for years. But they're different than what I would like to see sometimes. So weigh that out when you make your decision, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. So Doug is calling for the question, which is forcing the vote to happen on the amendment, and I believe Dan just seconded that call. Call for a question? Okay, so the question, so now we're gonna take a vote, and we're voting on the amendment here only. So the vote on the amendment, again, I'm repeating this, that the board would be paid $3,400 for this upcoming year and $0 for last year. Just to try and clarify, if your preference is that the original motion happened, then you should vote no for this motion. Then you would vote no for this amendment, and then when the original motion comes on, you would vote yes for that. If you're in favor of it, then you want to vote yes for it. So I'm going to try this by a show of hands here, and if it gets tough, then we'll have to do comments here. But I'm hoping that, well, we'll see. So all those in favor of the amendment of the $3,400? Yeah, and just a reminder, only citizens can vote, or residents, I'm sorry, can vote. Residents of the Great School District can vote. So the amendment, so all in favor of that, the amendment of $34 and $0 for last year be added to the motion, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
12 in favor of that. All opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 47.
Okay, so the amendment fails. So now we're back to the original motion. I'm asking, is there any more discussion on the original motion? I don't know your name. What's your name?
Matt.
Pat?
Matt.
Matt had a hand before to speak, so I'm going to give him the opportunity to speak.
Appreciate the shared fairness. Nobody made comments about the teachers that were hired recently being anything other than excellent. I don't know that time has gone by and we have any knowledge on that. So you can't put words in people's mouths, even though you like Mr. Jensen. Second of all, this issue is about creating awareness in the community. And those teachers under a statewide evaluation process, the district has put in place merit pay. It's been very contentious from what I hear with the teachers. They work in the same grade level as somebody else across the hall from somebody else, and somebody makes more, and they know in their heart that person works just as hard and does just as good a job, and they don't like it. That's what I hear. But in regard to this evaluation process and comments about our superintendent being good or bad, I don't know that either. And I asked about a week ago to see the evaluations of the superintendent. And I haven't had a response yet. It was an open records request and it will have to be agreed to. But my understanding is there is no evaluation of our superintendent in the previous year. So the top employee of the district has no evaluation. Whatever has been set for no written evaluation that they can present. Doesn't that bother you? Is our board doing a good job if their one big job, of the many they have, one big job is to evaluate the superintendent, and they haven't done that? At least there's nothing in writing. They can all sit around like a nice little club and talk about whether he's doing a good job or not doing a good job, but we don't have anything to base that on. It's a complete double standard with the employees that person is in charge of overseeing. And then I'll end with this. Someone talked about you're a bully if you try to set a awareness in the community.
No, that's not what I said. Don't put words in other people's mouths.
1 minute, Matt.
I like that order here, and I want a little extra time. You can interrupt me. The point is, this same individual is the one who said, I'd like the levy increase to be even less if it can. I'd like to spend less money on the boys and girls in this district. So who's the bully
No,
now?
that's not what I said. Fairness clause?
Okay, we had a call to motion here, right? Dan, call the motion. Do you want to wait for people, or you want to call the motion?
I'll remove that call.
Dan moves the call, so I think the guy in the back has a hand up first. I'm sorry, you lifted you next time.
My name is Ryan Krieger, 503 Fairview Circle. I'm here today to talk a little bit about teachers, the principals, the administration of our district. The teachers are the ones who are going to educate my kids. When my daughter says to me that I'm sick of substitute teachers, that tells me 8 weeks into the school year, our teachers are not in the classroom enough. Where does that come down from? Every time a teacher is out of the classroom, that is about double the amount of work for teachers. People who have taught can verify that it's double the amount of work, and your kids don't get the same education unless you have a high-quality substitute teacher there. What will happen if we don't treat our teachers the way they deserve to be treated as professionals? I'm pretty sure that the majority of teachers who have left our school district will be more than willing to tell you what happens to those teachers. They find better jobs with better pay. When our teachers' pay is less than the surrounding districts, and when we make our teachers do more than other teachers in surrounding districts, and when we create an environment that they don't want to teach here, they will leave. And they have. And now let's talk a little bit about merit pay. Merit pay, it creates competition amongst teachers. Merit pay says one teacher is better than another teacher. When I'm competing against another one of my colleagues, when I'm competing against another one of my colleagues who I'm supposed to collaborate with on a daily basis, I'm not going to do the best of my ability to collaborate with that person because I'm competing against them for that merit pay. And where are you going to send your kids? Into a classroom who that teacher got 0 merit pay? Or do you want your kids going to a classroom where the teacher got full merit pay? It's just a bad idea. Next, we need to discuss unrealistic expectations. Let's start with the principals. They have unrealistic expectations. I filled in for my principal for 4 weeks while her husband was going through the last stages of his life. And all I have to say is, I don't know how they do it, doing all of the evaluations that they have to do on the teachers, and then on top of it, meeting with the teachers after it. I didn't even have time to eat lunch during those 4 weeks. So I don't know where the expectations come down from, but guess what? That's way too far out for them. Growing up, I'm happy to say that I knew every single one of my teachers. My kids are not going to have that same opportunity. Last but not least, I would definitely like to stand up here and defend our PTO, who was bullied. They volunteer their time, and when we micromanage them, to where they can't have a competition, amongst their school, when we micromanage them, you're not going to have good volunteers anymore. So I support the PTO and everything that they do, and let's make sure that we keep those PTO members in here. So,
All right, you're 3 minutes up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your input. You got any green, Waterford here, Waterford?
Do I allowed to go for rebuttal? Is that okay?
Yeah. How many times he gets to? Because he was talking about no words and someone's mouth.
You're providing your comments.
Just to clarify, I never said I want to take any money away from kids. Please do not fall into the trap of saying that when you're trying to run a business efficiently and effectively, don't play the emotion card and say you're taking the money from the kids, okay? That's not the same thing. Teaching, if you're not happy, you need not to be there. Believe me, I'm in the classroom every single day, and I'm there because it's a calling and I love it, as is most of the teachers, okay, that are here, that 80% that I talked about before. So never did I say take money away from kids, make sure you got me on focus for your goddamn, okay? Never said that, and you just said don't put words in people's mouths, so please don't do that either. You don't, and earlier you said I want to take money away from kids. No, I don't. I want this to be run effectively and efficiently. That's what I want, because nothing happens in a school district until the taxpayers pay those taxes. The board works for us. His evaluation is his election. If we don't like him, we'll vote him out. That's his evaluation.
Thank you.
Okay? And by the way, how much does that open records request of yours cost in the district?
Shouldn't cost a penny because they ought to know the law and they ought to abide by it.
Don't focus on a particular person. It's just, if you're talking, people
Well,
just talk
if
together.
we're talking about money, Open records requests cost money. I used to do them for the government. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to do those things. Okay? Let's do the right thing. Let's be adults in the room, and let's make sure that people who are working get paid. We're not socialists. We're not communists. Let's do the right thing. It's a free enterprise competition. Let's do it right. Thank you.
I believe we have one other person that has her hand up. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just try to make this real short. I do know one of the people who resigned this year, and I'm not going to go into any particulars or whatever, but I happen to know for a fact that that person resigned for totally personal and professional reasons that had nothing to do with morale or anything else going on in the district. So I don't know how, I'm sure maybe there's some people that were unhappy, and for those people, I do think they need to be out there. If they're not happy, they're not going to be good with our kids. So another thing, I've been a teacher, public teacher, school teacher down in Illinois, moved up to Wisconsin, couldn't get a job. There are hundreds of applicants for every job. I went into parochial school, taught there for very low pay for a number of years, decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. I'll go into business for myself. Even though I enjoyed the job, teaching in Milwaukee in parochial school. But I thought, before I go into business, I'm going to try to get in public school again. Got a letter, congratulations. You're one of 40 applicants who are going to get an interview for 4 positions. They had 400 applicants. The rest of the people weren't getting a job interview. There are a lot of people who want these jobs, a lot of young people coming out of college. And I said, compete for it. And if you really don't like it, seek out something that'll make you happier. And some of those teachers maybe that resigned found something that, obviously they found something that made them happier, they wouldn't resign. And like I say, for some of them, I don't think it was personal with the district, it was just what they were looking for professionally or in their personal lives.
Thank you. And Jensen just made a call to take a vote on the motion. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Jim seconded. Got that? Okay, so I'm going to repeat the motion here. The motion, I'm going to read that. Hopefully correctly that. You correct me if I'm made it incorrect. But the motion is to pay the school board $3,900 for the upcoming year and $3,400 back pay for the previous year.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by raising your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33.
All those opposed, signify by raising your hand.
Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, Matt is 30. 30. No.
We're residents, we're just sitting here.
And we can sit wherever we want. For citizens.
So, if I understand it, then the vote was 33 in favor and 30 opposed.
Yes.
So then the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is new business. Dan, do you have something? Dan has new business.
I just got new business. I'd like to ask, more or less, let everybody know what these costs are. Matt's telling us it costs nothing for open records. That is 100% wrong, 100%. Is that on the camera? Right now, today, $15,000 actual money has been spent with lawyer fees and other fees associated with just getting Matt information, which is ridiculous. And how many extra iPads could we afford to pay for kids in kindergarten, first and second grade on $15,000? Quite a
To
few.
have a teacher.
And then 60 plus hours of our administration and our district administrators' time getting the information together for Matt. And what kind of information does Matt want? Matt wants things of little use, such as 5 years administrative reviews for the district
Is there a
administrator.
motion on the floor?
Unfortunately, this is new business. There's no motion. I don't need a motion on it. I'm just having discussion.
What's the business?
Okay, there's no business. Currently, I'm discussing. Right?
No, you're just,
If you'd like 3 minutes, Jim, if you'd like 3 minutes, take 3 minutes. Okay? But, I mean, the useless stuff of 5-year things when Matt wants to read. Unfortunately, I wish you were in charge, but you're not in charge of the meeting, so unless you can talk to him back here, maybe you can talk about it. Feel free to come back up and spend your 3 minutes if you'd like.
point of order, is there a motion on the floor?
So Matt wants to know also the models of cameras that we approve at the IP cameras over at the middle school. Wasted information, time, and money.
Yeah, my understanding is this is new business and we actually need a proposal of some sort of new business.
Okay, in that case, I will defer the fact there's no new business.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other proposals for new business? Okay, I'm.
Wait,
Matt.
why is he get to just walk
Sorry,
up
Matt.
and put your hands up?
Okay, thank you.
I propose that the district abide by the open records and open meetings law of the state of Wisconsin. And I propose that if the people that are employed to run the district do not understand the laws of the state, that they seek legal advice and get in tune with those laws. I assure you, I have no idea what Mr. Jensen's talking about, that I care about cameras, but I can tell you that the cost to photocopy documents should have been under about $20. If the district wants to play games and they want to infringe upon the rights of open records and public meetings, they can do that. But you should be very upset that they spent money to have a lawyer.
I agree.
So,
What's your motion?
the motion is that we continue to abide by state law and honor the open meetings and public record laws, and don't whine about the fact that if we don't know what the laws are, just like when Mr. Jensen didn't want me to set up my video camera and thought he could order me somewhere in the room. That we continue.
This is personal attack.
Matt, we abide by the law.
Matt, that's not a motion.
That's a personal attack. Whoever gets that.
Matt,
You didn't have a motion.
Matt, could you?
Nobody seconded it.
There's a point of order, and you have to represent. What is this point of order?
What is your point of order, Jim?
He made an original motion and then, like Dan, just continued to talk. So, you know, if there's a motion, he's to make the motion. And then people in the
It
audience.
needs a second before you have
If
discussion.
there was a second to that.
Thank you. That's, okay, and the motion that I believe, as I understood, was that we continue to follow the laws. That's not really a motion. That's a legal requirement, so I don't believe that is a valid motion.
Well, I thought Mr. Jensen didn't want us to abide by the rules anymore, the law, the open records.
I didn't hear that.
He didn't say that at all.
What was his motion?
Play your
You did
tape
have a
and get
motion.
home.
Okay, there's no motion on the floor at this time. There's no motion. There's no valid motion.
I have.
Okay, if you would like to make a motion, then I'd like to hear a motion. Now, please don't talk about I'd like to know this up here.
My name is Brian Purse, 4637 Northwest Highway. I'd like to make a motion that the school board abides by the same, I don't know what you call it, the regulations that the county does. When you request open records, you pay for the research fees, you pay for everything else. The only thing the school does is have to provide the open records. The county, you pay for the research, you pay for the copies, you pay for everything.
I agree. Too much your point of order?
Again, he made a motion and then he went on to.
I agree. So if I restate your motion, is that you want to change the way the school is run? I asked a point of order, is that even legal because we're governed by the state of Wisconsin laws? I'm not sure.
He
you
can't
can
speak.
change that.
His motion was that if you request an open record, you pay the fees to produce that open record.
Yeah, so I think that's the question. Is that even legal? Because if we're governed by the state of Wisconsin laws, you can't change the state of Wisconsin laws by a motion in this meeting. So I
They
don't
do it
think
at
that's
the
a
county
valid
and
motion.
state level.
County and state you pay for. They are the.
We're governed by state law. You can't change state law in this meeting. Okay, so that's not a valid motion.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other new business? And I emphasize the word new. Thank you. We can move on to setting the item number 15, which is almost the last one, the next annual meeting. Looks like the school board would like to have the authority to set the next annual meeting. Is that, I'm reading that correctly?
So moved. Second.
Jim made the motion, Dan seconded. Okay, so, somebody want to state this clearly? Not me.
Yeah, me. I'm sorry, what's the motion?
Any discussion?
What's the motion?
Oh, all motion, I just said it.
As it's written on the agenda, item number 15.
Okay, perfect. Then we're good.
So it's allowing the school board to set the annual meeting date.
School board the authority to set the annual meeting date.
Do we need a motion?
Okay, any discussion? Otherwise, we can move for a vote. No discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Count again.
No, you're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. It's 23 for math, 23.
23. All opposed? Raise your hand.
0.
0. Okay.